Who's not coming down the track? Who's not coming down the track? It's a mean machine in red and white. Ain't nothing finer in the land. When the drug marches straight to bed.
What's up, y'all? This is John and Caleb back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We are approximately 2 days and 21 hours from the Best of Savannah event. We need to thank you guys once again for helping get us there 2 out of the last 3 years. We are super excited. I think this will be like the third time that Caleb and I have ever seen each other in person.
Fourth, I think. We've been doing enough games. We've crossed paths.
Okay, fourth. But no, we are super excited, and I feel like this is not something that I have said enough on the show recently. I know I said it a lot at the beginning, but we have grown quite a bit as a show, even over the last few months, and that's all thanks to you guys. We appreciate everything that y'all have helped us do since we started, and I know, I guess Caleb's essentially like the fourth or fifth host that I've had on the show with me because of like military obligations and, you know, work and all the other things. But I mean, so far, like the last 3 months in a row have been our biggest months that we've ever had. And I don't quite understand it because it's not during the season.
Yeah.
But I'm not mad at it.
I can't say that I am either. Hope you guys actually stick around when we have football things to talk about.
Yes. And I have a feeling that things will be slightly restructured this year from how we've done them previously. But that's just, you know, Mike has, I don't know, like almost a baseball team of kids. And then you had another kid this year, and I just the inability to say no when people ask me things. So I essentially now have like 3 jobs. So we might have to restructure the season a little bit this year, but we are still going to do our best to give you guys our unique brand of content as we move forward. But it's really exciting week. It's really exciting time during the off season. I mean, Georgia softball, super regional at Tennessee, which is like, I'm excited for every single one of those games. Georgia baseball, number 1 seed in the SEC baseball tournament. You have in the football space, Brendan Sorsby is suing the NCAA after he quite literally broke one of the biggest rules in the sport. So just
what a time to be alive.
Something's happening.
Does the NCAA have any power right now? Is really what this is about.
You know, I get when players sue of like a black and white or a gray issue, right? Mm-hmm. Like Diego Pavia, he played a level of football that was not governed by the NCAA. Mm-hmm. And then he goes and plays 4 years of NCAA governed football. Like that's a gray area. I don't have an issue with that. There's a guy that plays for the Savannah Bananas right now who played football at Georgia after he quit his minor league baseball career. He never played college football. So was he like a 25, 26-year-old freshman? Yes. Is that fine based on the black and white rules? Yes. But gambling thousands and thousands of times when you bet on a team that you were a part of.
Mm-hmm. And this ain't like a joke Venmo transaction deal. This is real stuff.
Right, like he used actual sports books, which
Yeah.
one, the sports books could take legal action against him because he had insider knowledge of the
Hmm.
game with game plans, right? But also, like, how do you expect? Are you just hoping that you can pay your like Texas Tech and oil money can pay your lawyer well enough to drag it out long enough that you're able to play? Like, that's the only thing I can think of at this point.
Yeah, because it's very black and white. He very clearly broke the rules, and
Potentially laws. Like it's not just a little bit. Like he
right.
may have broken state and federal laws.
Hmm.
I just
Especially if he made as much on it as he seems to have, especially like
yeah, that's that's wild. I don't understand that. Okay. Um
so it seems we don't have any question about what's going to happen in that case or what should happen in that case.
no.
But I think we are going to talk about some questions that we have for some other folks pertaining to football tonight.
Yes. So tonight the episode is all about going through the biggest question for each SEC team's offense going into 2026. And this is post spring. Like I read what I could read, I watched what I could watch, which outside of G Day was next to nothing. Georgia's one of the few teams that did allow camera crews to film their spring game. But that's what we're going through. And so I think I did it this way last year, but I'm going to just kind of go through the format is the question, why we have the question, and then like a little bit into why it may not matter. I didn't do a deep dive into how each team's try to correct this, but I mean, some of these can't really even be answered until the season starts. We are going in alphabetical order because it is the easiest way for me to not leave any team off like I've accidentally done before. So, starting with, oh, how you been? What are you drinking?
I have been good. I have been very busy and will continue to be very busy. If you don't know, I work for a school system. We are wrapping up the school year, uh, which then gets into my actual busiest time of the year, which is summer, despite people think I basically get it off. Um, but yeah, we're good. My wife has finally got a job after getting her master's degree, which she was going to take the spring off anyway for having a baby, but we've got something locked in now. I won't say out loud what it is, just in case someone tries to cancel me and my wife down the road for something stupid that I say. Um, but we are very excited about that. I am back on the Mike's Hard Lemonade train, but I also have to say my wife and I had our anniversary a couple weeks ago, and she ordered this special koozie off Etsy that didn't even ship before it was supposed to get here, so we actually ended up getting it for free. But it's got I don't even know if it's gonna come up
Oh, you got to hold
with
your
my
hand behind
background.
it.
Oh, okay, smart, smart. So yeah, it's got
Ah,
this little logo that I had for myself for years on it, and I very much enjoy having it. And I'm gonna keep drinking these Mike's Hard Lemonades till I run out of them. So,
well, I
how
do
do you do?
not believe that they will have Mike's Hard on Thursday.
Okay, well that's fine. I drink other things occasionally.
I'm good. We hosted one of our more fun disc golf tournaments of the year this weekend. I was one of the tournament directors. So there's a brand of discs called Doomsday Discs, and it is exactly what you would think. Like it's all like Doomsday Prepper conspiracy type. Like they have a disc called the Psyop, and landmine and frag and like all these sort of weapons type names. But they do a tournament every year where we get 3 discs. You get them when you enter the tournament, and you can only use those for the first round. And we make all sorts of terrible, messed up rules for the short course that we play on. Like if your drive was within, or if any of your shots were within 9 feet of the basket, it was a hazard stroke, and you added one
Mm,
stroke to your score. So
wow,
you needed to put it to 10 feet and make a 10 foot putt.
that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it like this. We had guys that win professional tournaments play this weekend, and they won with a -1 on a course
Oh
that
wow.
multiple -18s have been shot on. So,
Wow.
yeah, the whole thing was we tried to make it hard. And with all the hazard, we called it the Hazard County Edition. Hollingsworth Automotive down here sponsored a whole, and they're a body shop. So they donated a door that we painted like the General Lee door for Dukes of Hazard. And I made some barbecue, 2 pork butts, 36 people. All of it's gone. I made 3 different types of homemade barbecue sauce. All of it's gone. So I will take that as an I did very good. Not to toot my own horn too much. But with that being said, Friday we set up the course and I didn't get drunk, but I drank steady beer all day. And then Saturday, hosting tournament, I drank steady beer all day. When we left the tournament, it was Two Tides Brewing in Savannah. It was their birthday. And they also do a lot for the disc golf community, so we went over there and drank some more. So I will not be drinking again until Thursday to give my liver a break because I never got drunk, but I was steady drinking for like 48 hours. So to give myself a little break, I had some electrolytes earlier, drinking a ton of water. So, it's nice to take a step back and take care of yourself every now and then when you need to.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I can tell you my liver probably appreciates it. I don't know
Yeah.
yet. But starting with Alabama, biggest question in their offense, can they do something about a running game that ranked 125th nationally last year? The lowest rushing offense ranking of the decade so far for Alabama. I only went back to 2020. It is 51 spots lower than the previous lowest rushing offense that Alabama has had.
Some might say that's not good at all.
Right.
Especially for a program in Alabama that tries to claim RBU so heavily.
For sure. And here's the thing. They only got one running back out of the portal, and Jam Miller's gone.
And this running back that they got out of the portal as well, he's probably Khalifa Keith. I mean, he's probably fine. He's coming from App State to the big boys. We'll see how well that goes.
Yeah. It's interesting. But to go with Alabama's bad running game last year, they also didn't have I have written down great, but they didn't have a good offensive line last year.
Yeah. Which is funny because I was doing some research for this particular point, and this site that I'm on says that they were the 15th best in the nation on offensive line. I'm not going to believe that, but I will still use it to make my point. I don't know. I don't know, John.
I think they were like 10th in the SEC in sacks allowed.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't go down this deep dive, so I'm not going to do it now. But they did attempt to improve their offensive line by losing Caden Proctor. They did also get 5 total offensive linemen out of the portal, 4 of which have power conference experience. How many games have those guys played? Offensive line stats are almost impossible to come by without paying for a stat website, so we don't know. But 4 of them did spend at least one previous year at a power conference school.
Yeah. Here's what I did find on that note, though. Because again, you could take the list that has Alabama ranked 15 with a grain of salt, but I was just trying to find a ranking of every offensive line. But 2 of the players come from Michigan and Ole Miss, which were not that much better on offensive line than Alabama. They were at least marginally better, according to this list in their grades. And then one of them came from Mississippi State, which is 51st ranked on this list.
I'm shocked they're that high, to be honest.
One of them came from Texas, which is 85th on this list.
Oh.
And then one of them came from an FCS school, so I can't really put them in a ranking. But yeah, again, point being, this isn't an upgrade for them just looking at. Now maybe they saw something in these guys and they can pull out the best in them. We've seen other teams do that with lower division players before. But I don't know that this is going to cut it, especially with their lack of perceived talent in the running back room that they have.
Yeah, and I will say one issue that I have with any Alabama fans expecting them to be able to get the best out of these players. They had 2 5 stars on the offensive line last year. And if they can't get the best out of 5 stars, Caden Proctor, who was drafted pretty high, considering his lack of production, how do they expect to get guys that probably are not as physically gifted to perform as well?
Right.
That's if I'm an Alabama fan, I truly think the public perspective within the fan base, I think the perspective of Kalen DeBoer hinges on the offensive line this year. Because if your rushing game is not good again, like, okay, we just got to hit the portal harder for running backs. But if your running game sucks again and you're still like middle to lower end of the SEC in sacks allowed and tackles for loss allowed and pressure rates.
If your quarterback's having to slide to avoid sacks because he's taken so many.
Yeah. Like that's where you need, like that's where Kalen DeBoer either has to make structural changes mid-season or he should probably go ahead and get that house on the market. Arkansas. This is one that I struggled to not go a million different ways with.
Yeah. It's a million different things you could say about Arkansas.
But here's the thing. Their offense was not bad.
Yeah.
Here, I'll get to it. Can Arkansas stop turning the ball over? That's really what stopped their offense from being good last year. And the issue is a lot of the turnovers that I saw them commit were tip passes and receivers or running backs trying to get an extra few yards and another defender comes in and rips the ball out. Like that was it. Mm-hmm. But they still did have 20 turnovers lost in 12 games.
Yeah, that's not good.
11 interceptions, 9 fumbles. And like I said, a number of those interceptions I would not personally put on Taylon Green. I know that interceptions are a quarterback stat. I don't think they all should be. Mm-hmm. But in it was the Memphis game. Like he threw 2 or 3 interceptions. 2 of them were tip passes where it hit both of the wide receivers' hands and the safety was just behind him. Like that's not Taylon Green's fault. If it hits your hands, you're responsible for it, except in the stat book when it comes to college football. Mm-hmm. But speaking of Memphis, Arkansas hired Ryan Silverfield, the coach from Memphis. They got the quarterback and running back from Memphis, and a lot of new coaching staff. And I think Arkansas is going to be a better team this year, at least offensively.
Yeah,
Ryan
they've also got a lot of very solid offensive players from some very solid schools as well.
Right. And this is something that I will credit Ryan Silverfield for, regardless of what I'm going to say the week before the Arkansas game, is he got the job and brought over specific pieces from Memphis and didn't just wholesale bring the entire team over, because I think he's an intelligent enough coach to know that doing it at the group of 5 level is not doing it at the power conference level.
Right.
And I'm high on what he can do at Arkansas, especially with how much parity there is in the SEC. But I can't even think of the word I'm looking for. It's not culture. It's not mechanics. Whatever changes need to be made of accountability. There we go. Anybody that's left from the previous era at Arkansas with Sam Pittman, and especially the position coaches, I think is where the Arkansas program fell apart. I don't think it was a coordinators. I don't think it was a head coach. I think it was a position coaches. But just accountability of wide receivers. If it hits both of your hands, you either bat it down or come down with it, but you don't let it get tipped in the air.
Yeah. I know that's going to be a point of emphasis, and they brought in a lot of good receivers. They've got one guy from Memphis to come over with them, but they brought in a lot from all over as well. And I'm sure they had that in mind when they did that. Memphis Not that everybody from Memphis is coming over, but just as a comparison point, Memphis was 28th in the nation last year in turnover margin, whereas Arkansas was 131st.
It's also known as awful.
Yes. But Memphis, if they were just to keep the same turnover margin, that would be a significant step forward.
I mean, so I can't remember who I did it for. But there's somebody I went through, and I may not have written it down. I'd be so mad if I didn't. Um, yeah, I think it was Arkansas, and I just didn't write it down because I can't find it in here. If you go back in every one score game, flip it.
You've got it at the bottom of this, at the bottom of the outline down here.
Okay, so it's for another note that I had about Arkansas. Where's it at? If every one score game that Arkansas was in was flipped, they go 8-4. How many of those games do they lose off of committing turnovers and being unable to get turnovers?
Mm-hmm.
And so another note that I had down here, I don't know why I copied and pasted all this. They were 23rd in scoring, 28th in rushing, and 30th in passing offense. Like that.
It's not bad.
No. Some of those numbers, I think two of those three numbers were better than Georgia last year. The difference is Georgia didn't commit turnovers and Georgia had a good defense.
Mm-hmm.
So if Arkansas can just not give the other team the football, they have a fighting chance in almost every game they're going to play in. But what we're talking about things that are awful. Auburn. Can they get an offense that isn't offensive? It was beyond bad last year for Hugh Freeze to be the head coach, known as and self-proclaimed one of the best offensive minds in the sport as of a few years ago. They had too many good players and too good of a defense to be that bad on offense.
Mm-hmm.
74th in the country in scoring offense, which is 5th worst in the SEC. 43rd in rushing offense, which isn't awful, but that number does drop to 78th in conference play, like 78th compared to other teams playing their end conference games. They were 99th in passing offense last year.
That's egregious for the talent that they had catching the football.
I think you and I could go throw passes to Cam Coleman.
Yeah.
And even if it's just 5-yard slants every play, get better than 99th.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will say, and this is it's a little bit of why I'm trying to think of words tonight that I don't have written down. I can't think of it. The dichotomy of Arkansas and Auburn, I think, is important because I don't think Ryan Silverfield's offense and bringing Memphis's offense over to Arkansas would work as well as I think Auburn and Alex Golish bringing the USF offense to Auburn. And there's a few specific reasons. USF beat SEC teams last year, or at least one.
One. A terrible one, but still.
Correct. And Florida wasn't that bad at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But USF was ranked 5th in the country in scoring, 13th in rushing. And they have a quarterback that when people talk about him as far as coming into the SEC and Byron Brown, they talk about, oh, is he going to be able to throw the football? This guy was 18th in the country in passing last year for a conference that got a team into the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not going to pretend that the American Conference is bad. I think the American Conference last year was probably better than the ACC, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So for Byron Brown to be 18th in passing in the country, I think is significant.
Having played two, core 4 opponents, one of which made the playoff and one of which they beat.
And let's not forget that USF under Alex Golish and with Byron Brown at quarterback, Byram, I cannot pronounce his name to save my life. My brain just doesn't. It's not a disrespect thing. My brain just doesn't work like that. They almost beat Alabama in back-to-back years. Well, let's not pretend that USF has been a slouch at any point in time. And that's kind of the biggest thing is that one of Memphis' biggest wins last year was Arkansas.
Mm.
And it was an Arkansas team that won 2 games. Meanwhile, USF, with that coaching staff and those offensive players, almost beat Alabama in back-to-back years and then did beat Florida last year. So, like, to me, the difference between Ryan Silverfield not bringing players over and Auburn bringing players over from USF is just that USF has been there and done that on the stage, not just once, but multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that makes sense out loud like it does in my head.
It makes sense to me. So
perfect. No one else matters.
Yep. You hear that, all you people listening?
That's a joke, guys. That's a joke, mostly. So Florida, we're talking about jokes. We got Florida up next.
Wow.
And so I actually
Sunbelt Billy Part 2. Here we go.
Yep, I do have multiple questions. Can they get better with Billy 2.0?
No.
Can Georgia Tech's leftovers and Georgia's X make the offense any better?
No.
And then the actual
maybe.
question.
I have a lot of respect for Buster Faulkner.
and Philo, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the actual question, can they score points this year? I think this is something that John Summerall has talked about openly in press conferences. If Florida scored points last year, Billy Napier's probably still there. Because they were in a lot of games, but they were 111th in scoring offense. And that was because they were 91st in rushing offense. They were forced to rely on a passing game too much for the personnel they had at the time. Their offensive line was Jake Slaughter and guys that rotated in and out of the offensive line. DJ Lagway was in and out of the lineup with injuries and confidence issues, and there's so many questions, but it really all boils down to, can Florida score points? The coaching from Billy Napier was awful. He refused to get an offensive coordinator unless he could get one of the top 3 guys in the country, which doesn't make any sense. Apparently, Florida made as big of a play as they could for Charlie Weiss Jr. last offseason. And when he said no, Billy Napier was just like, you know what? I'm almost as good as he is. No, you are not.
No.
Your current employment status tells us that. But it wasn't just the offense. They were procedurally awful everywhere. I mean, how many times did we get... I think they had 2 or 3 times last year where Florida got a 15-yard penalty for 2 players on the field wearing the same number at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, the team didn't know rules.
Yeah, the coaching cannot possibly get any worse than that.
Right. And
yet it's the University of Florida, and we watched them go from Dan Mullen to Billy Napier, so who knows?
And their fans thought it was an upgrade.
Yeah.
They went from having to score more points than Todd Grantham allowed to, can we just not get shut out?
Yes.
So it's rough.
Yeah. On the running game front, they are getting into running back transfers, none of which seem to be anything to really write home about. No offense to you guys. But, you've got a 5'9" Evan Pryor from Cincinnati who hadn't really done anything. And then you've got London Montgomery coming from ECU, because we love our group of 5 leftovers at Florida.
Yeah, I don't... And a lot of their other transfer portal and the class that John Summerall was able to put together is impressive. Like, as much disrespect to Florida fans as possible, but as far as the coaching and the team, like, they've done what they can within year one, but are they able to score points with who they have? Because the biggest issue that they struggled was on the line of scrimmage, and that's next to impossible to turn over through the transfer portal in 1 year.
I do have to say too, like, and I come at this and I say this mostly to troll, and understanding that Tulane had a very mature, older team last year, particularly in the players that actually made them win games. But John, you're telling me all you can get to transfer from Tulane to Florida from your team last year were the special teams guys?
And so I think that's, if I'm remembering right, and it could 100% be something I'm imagining, I believe that's something that John Summerall said in a press conference, partially to throw shade at Auburn, because I think at the time he was trying to get Cam Coleman to transfer, but he said something along the lines of, I didn't bring the entire Tulane team with me because if they were good enough to win SEC games, they'd already be here. Which,
Get fair.
valid point. But, you know, like I don't burn bridges that you're still in the process of crossing on that one. That's
Right.
Yeah.
There's probably a reason that the incoming transfer list on this one is so much shorter than Auburn's. It's probably got something to do with comments like that.
Yeah. And like I said, I could 100% be imagining that comment. I would have to go back and look it up. But I do really remember something along those lines. Georgia, because we're going in alphabetical order. Biggest question, can the offensive line improve? It was autocorrected to approve. It is improve. Can they improve? We think that every other part of the offense is in a great position to be elite this year. The question of replacing a first-round tackle in Monroe Freeling, a multi-year starter, center/guard in Micah Morris, and your center from last year missed the end of the season with a significant lower body injury. All of those questions have to be answered. Like how Drew Bobo is a guy that we learned throughout the last season and a half that he was the glue that was holding that offensive line together for the most part. And it's nice that, you know, guys like, and I knew I should have written names down.
Juan Gaston, Dontrell Glover,
and
the other guy.
The guy with a lot of vowels in his last name.
Yes.
All right. I got to look that one up. Anyways, like a lot of these younger guys got a lot of significant playing time, and that's great. Like, I think those were some of the pieces that at the end of the year we were the most confident in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you're still, at the end of the day, you are still replacing Monroe Freeling, who is a first-round player, Mike Morris, who I believe went in the third round. Like, these are all significant replacements.
Michael Uini, is that who you're talking
Yes.
about? Uini? I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry. I heard it last year, and I've already forgotten it. But
Yes, same. No disrespect.
Yeah.
We're just barely educated white boys from the South. Give us a little bit of a break. But I mean, as far as other guys in that room, Malachi Tolliver, who played some last year, Jazeer Jackson, who's 6'10", 350 pounds, just an absolute animal.
He got a lot of time during the spring game too. Lot of time.
Daniel Calhoun is a name that we've heard behind the scenes, not really behind the scenes, but people that are behind the scenes have talked about Daniel Calhoun for 2 years in a row now. Mason Short was a very highly rated player coming into last year's class and didn't really get a lot of playing time. There's a number of guys who could come in and make an impact, but there's at least 3 question marks on that offensive line right now, which is concerning. Kentucky. And if you listen to the OG Kickoff, which is the old STS podcast, but it's now the OG Kickoff, they just talked to Will Stein last week. And I personally think that he was one of the more likable coaches that they've ever talked to on the show. So this is almost entirely directed at him, but not in a negative way. Can they just not suck on offense? Like, not sucking probably makes Kentucky bowl eligible last year. And they were last or close to it in almost every major offensive stat in the SEC. And it was honestly kind of disgusting what they trotted out there in an attempt to score points. I think I've said this before. I think Will Stein is one of the best hires of the entire coaching carousel from last season. Kevin Minchie out of the transfer portal. Notre Dame coaches have come out and said that was a significant loss for them. And they said that they would have won the same amount of games with Kevin Minchie as they did with CJ Carr last year. Like the Notre Dame coaching staff was very disappointed to lose Kevin Minchie in the transfer portal.
Kenny Minchie.
Kenny, why do I keep saying Kevin?
It's easy to do.
Y'all, I did write this like a week and a half ago. So I don't know where my brain was a week and a half ago, but it wasn't in the right place. Kenny Minchie out of transfer portal is going to be great for them at quarterback, and him being more mobile than a statue is going to be nice with the offensive line issues they've had. And I think, man, I think Will Stein can turn Kentucky around. Are they going to be a 10-win team every year? Probably not. Are they going to be a 10-win team next year? Almost definitely not. But can they compete week in and week out in the SEC with the type of play calling that Will Stein and the staff that he has hired are going to have? I believe so.
I've got to say, this is one of the very few teams, like any other team that we've looked at today so far. Like they've got some folks that are going in that are really, really good, and some folks going out that are just like, oh man, that's a huge loss, and they don't, none of them seem to make really big strides ahead in the transfer portal. Kentucky lost Dante Dowdle, and that's huge for them. But looking at what they've got coming in, it's really hard not to see a gigantic upgrade.
Right. And individual guys they lost last year, they replaced with at least two others. Like just the level of competition in the building is going to go up, which is going to lead guys to improve.
Yeah.
LSU. Can the Lane train keep rolling? There's already a little bit of consternation in the LSU fan base after Lane did the whole Vanity Fair thing, because the last thing you want to do as an SEC coach is bring up the history of the school that you are coaching at or used to coach at when it comes to the Civil War. Because, spoiler alert, we all lose that argument.
Mm-hmm.
No SEC school has a good history there. Maybe Kentucky, because, Kentucky was questionably in the Confederacy.
Right.
Maybe, nope, I was about to say Missouri, but the Kansas-Missouri rivalry goes back to the Civil War.
Yeah, that was a big part of what started the whole thing. So maybe not that.
Yep. So we all lose if that's the argument. We all lose. And Lane,
but you should also just have consternation about Lane Kiffin, because the man is a clown and has always been a clown and will revert to being a clown as soon as he gets enough attention.
Yeah, and just the way that he, for years, including having an ESPN documentary about him last offseason, of where he was just like, man, Oxford changed me. I'm never leaving. This is the best place I've ever been. I was a terrible human until I got here, and these people made me who I am. And then just immediately leave, burn it to the ground with a middle finger up.
Yep.
LSU fans should be concerned, because at the end of the day, Kalen DeBoer can't get that offensive line and running game better this year. You guys have 1 year of Lane Kiffin, because he is running to that A with the dingleberry on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but at the end of the day, Lane Kiffin still does have 0 playoff wins as head coach. He has 0 playoff appearances as a head coach. He is the highest paid head coach in the sport without a national title. There are 2 coaches getting paid less than him that do have national titles. Lane Kiffin, after all these years and all these great offenses and all these quotes and all these articles, and he's the only coach in college football with a Vanity Fair cover, still has so much to prove.
Mm-hmm.
And let's not forget, last year he beat Kentucky barely. Barely. In a game that his offense committed multiple turnovers. Last year, Ole Miss struggled against a lot of teams that weren't necessarily that good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was with multiple years of stacking recruiting and portal on top of each other at Ole Miss. What is he going to be able to do in year 1 at LSU?
Yeah. He might beat Alabama at home and Texas at home. He also might lose in Lexington, Kentucky.
That would be so good.
It would be. Also, over under number of mustard bottles thrown on September 19th in Oxford.
I don't think Ole Miss fans I don't think they throw mustard bottles
Fair.
because they, unlike Tennessee fans, have enough money that they're going to throw like glass bottles of Pappy or like Grey Poupon mustard. Like they're not throwing French's bottles out there. Like it's going to be glass. They're going to be they're going to be Pro V1 golf balls.
That's true.
Speaking of things that Ole Miss fans hate, Mississippi State. Can they just continue to improve on offense? We're going to get to the defense next week, but this is just an all offensive questions. With using Kamario Taylor so much last year and close to 10 new offensive linemen out of the portal in high school recruiting, like it's huge. Because the area they struggled in last year was keeping Kamario Taylor upright. We saw what happened in the Georgia-Mississippi State game of what he could do when he is upright. Losing Brennan Thompson's important, but Mississippi State has never really struggled to get, for whatever reason, they've never really struggled to get one or two top-end wide receivers out there.
Yeah, somehow.
Yeah, makes no sense. I do think Jeff Lebby is a good coach, and I think the defense will improve, which if your defense spends less time on the field, that normally helps the rest of your team. But they've got some really good guys out of the portal. Running back, too. Like I think they can improve, but they have to.
Yeah.
They don't have a choice because Jeff Lebby would like to keep his job. Mizzou. Is Austin Simmons capable of throwing forward passes to the level of Brady Cook? You don't need Drew Lock. You don't. You need somebody who can distribute footballs and read defenses. You don't need an elite arm. You don't need somebody that can scramble all over the place. He doesn't need to be Chase Daniel. They just need him to distribute the football and not turn the ball over. Because Mizzou has the best running back in potentially the country coming back this year. They've got a decent offensive line. They've got good wide receivers. Can they get somebody to distribute the football? That's it. That's their only question on offense.
To answer that question, Mizzou is going to be in multiple tight games this year that Austin Simmons throws away. I'm calling it right now.
I don't necessarily disagree with you. But he's got to be better than the guy or guys they had last year.
Fair.
Oklahoma. What can they do to improve the running game? They were 113th in rushing offense last year. John Mateer individually accounted for almost 30% of their rushing yards at quarterback. And this is not sack adjusted. So all the negative yards he got, he still got almost 30% of their total rushing yards last year. And if you go from November 1st until the end of the year, including their playoff game, he accounted for 46.1% of their rushing yards. Let's remind y'all, he missed like 3 weeks, 3 or 4. And he was still 30% of their total and almost 50% of their rushing yards at the end of the season. So,
Yeah, and
go ahead.
one thing you got to keep in mind, too, and again, I'm bringing up the transfer portal a lot because that's just how you make improvements in college football in 2026.
Yeah.
If you want to get them done quickly. Oklahoma has not had a great time there. They're bringing in a running back from Colorado State. They are bringing in 4 offensive linemen from Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Georgia Tech, and Arkansas. Some of the best offensive lines.
I was about to say, please tell me they got Northern and Southern Kentucky in there.
I wish they would have. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Alas, no. I don't think Northern Kentucky even has a football team.
Well, both of their power conference teams are in the northern part of the state. So,
okay, fair enough.
Ole Miss. What does the offense look like without Lane and Charlie Weiss Jr.? They did hire John David Baker from ECU, who was a former offense coordinator under Lane Kiffin. ECU did have the 24th scoring offense in the country last year. His last season at Ole Miss was 2023, and they had the 16th ranked scoring offense. They do have another guy that you could argue is the best running back in the country returning in Kawan Lacey. They also have Trinidad Chambliss, who I am convinced when he sweats, it's actually just Vaseline and dish soap because you can't grab him.
Yeah, the Ole Miss is going to be just fine on offense, I think. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Yeah, like they retained their best pieces from the transition to or between coaches,
which is amazing. Like, you never see that anymore.
Well, to me, it tells you what these guys thought about Lane Kiffin. Just personal opinion, but I think it's a personal opinion that's shared by a lot of people that don't wear purple and yellow.
Yeah.
South Carolina. What can they do about the offensive line? And this is not a factual number that I'm about to say, but the offensive line has been 75% of South Carolina's problem under Shane Beamer, which I think that 2 years ago, if Lenore Sellers was able to do anything other than get his ass beat every game, they probably would have won more than 9 games. And I think last year, if he wouldn't have gotten his ass beat every game, he probably wouldn't have missed multiple games. So, and Lenore Sellers is currently the program and Shane Beamer's job. But to put an actual number in here into why or what they suck so much at, 131st nationally in sacks allowed.
That's probably why they're bringing in 8 offensive linemen from the transfer portal.
Probably so. I would venture to say, yeah.
Though I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know if bringing one of them in from Ferris State is gonna cut it, but Trinidad Chambliss came in from Ferris State.
Valid
so
argument.
You never know. Might be the savior of the program.
Speaking
also,
of
Nitro Tuggle will be there.
It's disappointing, but I get it.
Yeah.
Speaking of needing a savior, Tennessee. Who plays quarterback this year?
It's a great question, and I'm very excited to laugh as we all learn the answer.
Yes. So they swung and missed on Sam Levitt, and outside of him, the quarterback portal class has been underwhelming and expensive.
Yeah. They did not bring in a transfer quarterback, by the way.
Yeah. Opportunity cost was the expensive part.
They brought in 3 cornerbacks because Josh Heupel doesn't know how to read.
I would agree with that.
Sorry, 4 cornerbacks, excuse me.
Tennessee is essentially taking another gap year at quarterback, which once again could cost Josh Heupel his job. Last year, I think we were all surprised at what... Oh, the kid. I cannot remember his name to save my life right now.
Joey Aguilar.
We were all surprised at what he was actually able to do last year. I think we all thought it was going to be worse than it was, but it still wasn't great.
Yeah,
I do think that a lot of Tennessee fans have forgotten their place in the pecking order of the SEC after one good year of which they embarrassed themselves in the entire conference in Columbus, Ohio. And, I think Josh Heupel may get run out of Knoxville just because quarterbacks would rather go play other places.
Yeah. It looks like your quarterback this year is going to be either a junior transfer from Colorado who was sitting on the bench last year behind Joey Aguilar. Oh, actually, he just my list must have been inaccurate. He was at Colorado last year and started a game. Threw 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, which is he is the kind of guy then that Tennessee likes to go after, a quarterback in the transfer portal. It's either him or one of 3 freshmen.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Because they did run out Jake Merklinger from Savannah, who was around the same class he was the class after Nico, and then he was supposed to be fighting for the job last year with Joey Aguilar, and they essentially told him, go away, kid. So now he's a presumptive starter at UConn.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
He's got a quarterback name, so I feel like he'll be fine.
He does. Also, his mom is a physical therapist at the VA and a wonderful lady.
Wonderful.
Texas A&M.
just skip
Nope.
Texas.
We did
Why don't we?
100% skip Texas. I'm so glad that
And
you went and highlighted that.
in fairness, so has everybody else when they make a list of good teams in the SEC.
All right, Texas. Another
I'm kidding.
question.
Texas is the most overglazed team in the world.
Correct. Have you seen that people are trying to put them at number one in preseason
Again.
rankings again? Yeah. And I understood it last year, right? Like I was slightly buying into the hype. I thought they were going to be good. And then
Then
I
they
guess,
weren't.
yeah, I guess just, running the football was an option. Apparently it wasn't if you wanted to make the playoff. But that's the question. Yeah. Can they run the ball? With some of the best returning backs in the SEC, Texas sucked at running the ball last year. They did. They had I would say two of the top 10 guys in the SEC last year and just couldn't run the ball. 90th in rushing offense throughout the entire season, in which they played not outside of Ohio State. They didn't play really anybody in out-of-conference play, and they almost lost some of those games in out-of-conference play in which they played nobody. But then if you look into rushing offense versus conference opponents, Texas drops to 124th. And they did do what you would expect Texas to do this year. They spent a ton of money on a lot of the better backs in the transfer portal. They really did. But
including Hollywood Smothers, who has one of my favorite names from the portal this year.
Correct. Fluff Bothwell is another guy that has a great name. But, just the issue last year was not running backs. It was the offensive line.
That, to me, in my opinion, does not seem to have been corrected this season.
No, it does not. But hey, Steve Sarkisian says the reason the offense sucked last year is because he had to spend too much time on the defense, which was still like top 30 in the country.
Because that's what you do when you're a coach, is you focus on one side or the other. That's what makes a good coach.
Especially when you are the offensive play caller. Just focus all on the defense, dude. It's fine.
Steve Sarkisian, offensive genius, ladies and gentlemen.
Texas A&M.
We don't like to, if you're one of these new listeners who's come in the last few months and you haven't noticed, we don't like Texas very much here at the Nothing Finer podcast.
But we don't like them for legitimate. It's not because they're Texas and they're flashy. It's because a lot of their fans are douches.
Facts. One. And have been the entire time that Georgia has been smoking them on repeat.
Correct. But also, like, Steve Sarkisian is allegedly, I've obviously never met the guy, but allegedly, he's like one of the smartest people in college football. Like, I've heard multiple people say that if he had chosen to do something other than football, he would be widely considered a genius. Like, that's how smart the guy is. And he's not smart enough to come up with better excuses.
Yeah.
That's if you're going to be smart, you can't be lazy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of excuses.
Yeah, Texas A&M. What to do about Marcel Reed and throwing forward passes? Because he had a lot of passing yards last year, but his completion percentage was bad. This is something we highlighted before a couple of the A&M games we talked about. But even in allegedly the windiest environment that Kyle Field has ever hosted a football game in, that was rough. Like, if Carson Beck outduels you, you're doing things wrong.
Yep.
And I would say the wide receiver group, not individuals, because I think Malachi Tony's the best wide receiver in the country, but the group of wide receivers at A&M was better than the group of wide receivers at Miami.
Yeah.
And they still couldn't do anything. And I will say, if Marcel Reed in the passing game cannot improve with a lesser degree of talent at wide receiver this year, last season is the absolute ceiling, and in reality, it's probably the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not getting through the ceiling to get to the roof if Marcel Reed cannot improve.
Yeah. And I got to say, last season, they went on that undefeated run for a while in large part because they had one of the easier SEC schedules I have
Hmm.
ever seen, not given to a team just called Texas. And this year it don't get any easier for them. I mean, it's not the most difficult thing in the world, but they still have to go to Baton Rouge, and they have to go to Tuscaloosa, and they have to go to Columbia, both Columbias, and they have to go to Norman, Oklahoma.
That's not hot
That's
take.
not even mentioning, Tennessee at home, which for some reason Tennessee will randomly have hot spurts of offense, and you're going to have to outscore them at times.
Yeah, hot take. Texas A&M barely makes a bowl game next year.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that one. That seems very plausible.
I think Marcel Reed is going to have an like a. He's in the Heisman finalist conversation season for them to be playoff relevant at the end of the year.
Hmm.
Anyways, Vanderbilt. Speaking of a conversation about playoff relevance, except for Vanderbilt's is over. How do they replace the production of Diego Pavia and Eli Stowers? The two of those players individually accounted for 73.1% of the offensive yards that they got last year and 63.6 of every touchdown the team scored.
Hmm.
Like,
And the only decent looking skill position player they seem to have gotten in the transfer portal is a three-star backup kid from Alabama, a white wide receiver named Cole Adams.
yeah. And, you know, Jared Curtis, for every negative thing that some Georgia fans are going to want to say about him, he chose Vanderbilt because he could play his first year and the amount of money that they threw at him.
Yeah. Oh, hang on. They also got Ja'Cory Thomas, not our Ja'Cory Thomas, a wide receiver from Old Dominion named Ja'Cory Thomas.
Oh, okay.
That'll solve all their problems.
Yeah. True freshman Jared Curtis is not like 30-year-old Diego Pavia.
What are the odds he was watching that NFL draft with his head in his hands? Like, I've made a horrible mistake.
Jared Curtis?
Yes.
0%.
You think so?
They put him in a movie.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He's making bank right now. He doesn't care about a
And
few years from now.
and in the in the portal era, in the NIL era,
Yeah.
contracts aren't real.
Yeah. You get
He
yours and you go somewhere else.
I was
Yeah.
about to say he's probably making millions of dollars this year.
Yeah.
The alleged number that I heard was 5 of those.
Yeah. It seems like he's the only one getting it too, based on what else they've got on their roster.
Yeah, dude, he definitely has the Aaron Rodgers method of contracts.
Yeah.
Give me
Just
all of
empty
the
the
money
clip.
so
Yeah.
I can blame everyone else for not winning football games.
Yeah.
And here's the am I going to say that Jared Curtis is never like is he only going to play 1 year at Vanderbilt? I don't know. I don't think he knows. I think he took the money and the playing time and he's hoping he can put
Hmm.
something good on film to go to I don't know, he's probably trying to go to Texas next year after Arch is gone in all
Yeah.
reality. But it's rough. You're replacing 73.1% of your offensive production. And the one guy you have is a true freshman.
Yeah. And again, talking about schedules, you want to talk about the team that might barely make a bowl game this year in the SEC?
If
They've got to go.
if they make it.
Yeah. Yeah. His first game as a true freshman is in Jordan Hare Stadium. His first SEC game as a true freshman.
That's rough.
Then he's got to go to Sanford Stadium.
Yep.
Then he plays Ole Miss, but at least it's at home, but they're going to be good.
Yep.
Later on, they do get Alabama at home, but it's Alabama. They got to go to Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Gainesville, which is an environment, if nothing else. Teams have lost games they should have won there, and I'm not even saying that Vanderbilt is a team that should beat Florida.
At any point in time ever.
Yeah, and of course they've always got Tennessee on the schedule. Like these guys are gonna have a rough go of it this year.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And with all that being said, and we're going to talk about drop off teams here in the next couple of weeks. Vanderbilt's probably going to be on that list, but it's not because of the program. Like I don't want to take anything away from what Clark Lee has done
Yeah.
this far. But this year's going to be bad.
Hmm.
Like this year is going to be a struggle in every facet of the game for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
But if you don't have anything else, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, follow us on social media at nothing.finder.pod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Just look us up. You can find us there. I know I'm forgetting something, but anyways, thank you guys for helping us get to the Best of Savannah party this Thursday. We will not be doing another episode this week because of that. Normally, we are recording at the time that we will be at the party, enjoying ourselves. So, thank you again. And always remember, y'all, there's nothing finer in the land
And a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.